It's crazy. It's actually surreal because you go to these press conferences and there's Phil Neville like sat across the desk and he's asking you how you are, and you're like, this is crazy. That's Phil Neville, like a Man United legend. And Phil Neville is actually class. Like, he's a really nice guy, and obviously he often watches the Super League matches to see how his players are getting along. He's often at Man City, and if I'm there for a game, he'll come over and say hello and ask how I am and stuff. So like, that's insane in itself, because like I interviewed Nikita Paris the other week, and like, she's one of the best women players in the country, or
Yeah.
you know, one of the best in the world this season. And like, I definitely don't take that for granted. Like, each time I do it, I'm like, wow, this is like amazing. It's always hard when you speak to somebody that you have never spoken to. Like, obviously you take Phil Neville as an example. I feel a lot more comfortable talking to Phil than I would have done when I first met him, because, you know, obviously, you know as well as I do, there's certain interviewees that treat journalists as, you know, as people that are kind of there to do their job, and then there's others that treat them like something they have to deal with when they don't really want to deal with.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't know what you're going to get when you speak to somebody. But I think obviously with Phil being the footballer that he was on such a big scale, and the media attention that came with that, I think, you know, he kind of gave us all a fair chance. Obviously I've been to a lot of his press conferences now, but there was one that particularly sticks in my mind. I think it was in Nottingham, and it was a press conference before England played, I think it was England played Brazil in a friendly or something. And we got there, and it was just me and one of the journalists, and that was it. Like, there was this whole room of seats spread out ready for all these media, and it was just me and this other journalist that turned up. That is quite daunting when, like, he's looking at you about 5 inches from your face and it's just you there. And so I think it's important to prepare. Like, preparation is key, because if I hadn't have prepared in that situation, I would have just been stood there like a right idiot, like, with no question.
How do you prepare?
I think it's important to do research, but I think one of the main things that I've particularly learnt from the desk is to think about what you want the piece to be at the end of it, or you kind of just go around asking a bunch of generic questions. Try and go into an interview with topics that you want to discuss and that you want to, you know, think about. Don't be stuck to your questions and not listen to the answers, because often somebody's answer is the lead on to your next question. And that can be a big thing, that maybe, you know, you could say something really outrageous and you could just miss it because you're too focused on your next question, kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's important to research, make sure that you're confident in what you're saying, and then I think that comes across in your question.
Have you always been a confident person when it comes to sort of putting yourself out your comfort zone a little bit and sort of going for it? Is that something that you'd say that you probably always had in you, or do you think this time you just jumped into it because you couldn't resist?
I think a big part of it is that this was my dream career, and that I knew that this was such a big opportunity for me. I think there is certain things that have definitely put me out of my comfort zone, like when you go to your first like England press conference and there's loads of journalists asking questions, and obviously you sit there initially and you're just one of the ones that sits there instead of asking a question. And then, like, later in the season, you'll like pluck up the courage to be one of the people that actually ask a question in a press conference. And I think that's definitely something that you develop as you get more used to it, and you get to know the other journalists, and it's a lot less daunting. I think it's very hard when I first walked into that first press conference room, and like, you don't know anyone. You're just, for a start, I was a woman in a male-dominated sport, and I was young as well. It's like, who's this kid that's working for the Times? So yeah, I think it's over a matter of time. Your confidence definitely grows, but I think for that first one, you just have to jump into it because it's such a big opportunity.